All right. Today is June 5th, 2019, and this is Mary Claire Neal.
This is May Lebron.
And we're interviewing Dr. Mei Young
Mungye.
Dr. Mungye for Houston Asian American Archive. So thank you so much for coming.
No problem.
Can you tell us first just when and where you were born and a little about your earliest memories, if you can think of them?
Mm-hmm. I was born in Taiwan, in a little city, Hualien, the east of Taiwan, in 1961. And I think after 1 or 2 years old, and we moved to Taipei, the biggest city in Taiwan, and then we lived there for the rest of the time until I came to the States. So I was born and grew up in Taiwan until I graduated from college. Then I came to the States, which is 1986 for my master's degree. And then, so it's my childhood, going to school, college, all in Taiwan.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So which family did you grow up with? You had 2 brothers, right?
Right, I have 2 younger brothers.
Okay.
They are all still in Taiwan. My parents are always still Taiwan. I'm alone here. I'm one person here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any family actually in the States, or in Taiwan or China, because my father actually is from mainland China. In 1949, when Taiwan and China become 2 parts of countries. And so his family, when he came 1949 to Taiwan, his family are all in mainland China. So at that time, he thought the civil war, will end and he would go back, but he never did. So after 40 years, then he, met his family again. So I have family in both sides, but they do not come to the States.
So you never visited them as a child, or?
Did we visit my family in China?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we did. After China opened up, and Taiwan allowed us to visit them. I mean, first we visited in Hong Kong, and then when it opened up, yes, we went to visit them. So they can come to Taiwan too, and we can visit them. So my father, when he came to Taiwan in 1949, actually he's married. He had a 3-month-old daughter there. So it's my sister, actually. So after 40 years, he left her 3-month-old and met her again. She was 40 years old. So yeah, I went back to see them, and they came to Taiwan. So yeah.
So how much younger are your younger brothers from you?
One is 1 year old, the other one is 9 years old. So one is still in Taiwan, one working in mainland China, because right now they're politically separated, but business-wise, it's a very close connected. So a lot of Taiwanese went to China to work, to have business. So my father is one of them. Yeah.
Do you have any particular memories from childhood, going to school, or favorite teachers?
Yeah, in Taiwan, that I enjoy studying language a lot. So I met one teacher in elementary school. She is really into Chinese literature and Chinese language. So I learn a lot from her. Sometimes we will have private time individually. So we work on that. And then when I went to junior highs, we studied English at the age of 13, and so I'm interested in English too. So I met a wonderful teacher, give me the concept about language structure. So actually, that's why I came to the States for the master's degree, teaching English as a second language, and then. After I got my master's degree, then I was in UT Austin. when I got there, after 1 year, I had TA-ship, so I could teach Chinese to the undergraduates, and that's the time when I started to think about my own language, right? You're fluent in it, but you never thought about the structure or grammar. So while teaching my own language, I started interested in the structure of the languages. That's why after I finished my master's degree in teaching English as a second language, and then went on to do my PhD in linguistics. So, yeah. So it's because all the interest in language and language structures, kind of guide me to what I'm doing right now.
Wow.
Yes, yeah.
That's from such an early age.
I know. I remember that even when I was very young, I liked to be a teacher. I remember I have two younger brothers. The one younger than me, we are like 4 or 5. I would ask him to sit there, and we have a blackboard, I would teach him how to do that. So I think, it's my calling. Even at a young age, I already want to be a teacher, and then I since never changed that, the idea, and I'm still enjoying it. I mean, I'm teaching Chinese for almost more than 20 years, but I'm still interested in it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you like to read a lot as a kid? Was that part of your interest in language?
Yes, I read a lot. Right now I still read a lot. I read everything, not just language structure or linguistics. Right now I'm reading, for example, the hidden life of trees. See all the trees around you, actually, there are a lot of things we don't know. They talk to each other, they communicate, they know where to grow, how to, get rid of the insects and the problems, so. But yeah, I read a lot. So.
About your family, do you remember what kind of values or worldviews your family or your community or your school kind of impressed upon you?
Definitely for Chinese is family concept, right? And then how you help or take care of your brothers, sisters. How do you do the filial piety to your parents? It's very, I think it's very strong. Even then, when you came to this country, I think there's a big difference. I married to a non-Chinese, and we're married for 30 years. We have kids like May's age, but there's something about this family concept still is hard to communicate. I mean, it's hard for him to understand, and it's hard for me to tell him why we do this. So, for example, my parents, they have their pension. Their everyday life is fine. It's not like they need us to give them money or anything. But for Chinese, you should do that just to express your appreciation, your attitude, and you care about them. You want to give them when their birthday or the Mother's Day, Father Day, you want to give them not just a gift or card. You want to give them some money gift. And this is the concept. It's very, for example, for my husband, it's American to understand that. He said, your parents do not need the money. Why should we do that, right? This is one thing about family. And another thing, another example is that when my brother was studying here for master's degree, and his old car broke down, so he needs a new car. And we have a old car want to get rid of. So I for Chinese, we can afford that. We say we just give the old car to my brother to use. My husband, no, you have to, sell it to him. So they made it very clear. It's not that he is not generous. He's very generous. When my parents come, he would buy the tickets for them. If they are coming, he will show he's welcoming. But it's just not out of no need. You give money to your family, he cannot understand. And for Chinese, it's very natural. It's you are supposed to do. So it's still, as a Chinese, how I was educated, remember that. So this family is one thing. Another is, I think, education is another big difference that I have to get used to it when I raise my 2 kids in this country. Communicate with my husband. For one thing, here in the States, the kids do not get grades, like semester grade like A, B, C until the 3rd grade or second or the 4th grade, right? So, the kids do not have the concept to have to study, have to do the test until a little bit older. So when the 3rd grade, I remember when my girls, the oldest one, got a grade, and then, not all 8. Some B's, some, C's. So for Chinese, which is a problem, it's a problem because he's not doing well. But then I show my husband. And my husband said, "Oh, not bad." It's like he said, "Oh, I never get that A in when I study." So, but he's successful. He has his own career. For him, grew up in this country, he think grade doesn't mean that much, not significant. No, but for Chinese, that's everything about education. That's sure on your grade. So I learned something from that too, because I see my kids are happy in school. It's not like they did not want to go to school, they did not want to learn. They still do. It just, maybe they're not good at testing, because not like Chinese from the 1st grade, you have so many tests, So I remember that in Chinese school, you went to the Chinese school. Actually, my girl went to the same Chinese school with me and Daniel. In Chinese school, even your kindergarten or 1st grade, they already give you grades. You write a test, characters, and then you have a grades. So my older daughter, Catalina, actually got the grades earlier than in her American school. So he came to show me that Chinese test, she got 87. When I say, "Oh, it's not bad," he said, "Mommy, I'm almost the 17 or 18, the last one." I said, "How do you know?" Because the teacher will show each one, the grades, who got 90, who got 81, because this is a very Chinese way of showing, and to the whole class, you have to work harder to get to the top. Now you are 86, it's not that great. So she actually got that idea from the Chinese school. But because I changed, I learned that. I changed my way of looking at education and grades. So I did not push my kids that much. I let them to learn on their own path. So I remember several years ago, there's a Tiger Mom books coming out, right? My girls would say, "Mom, you don't look like a Tiger Mom at all," because I hardly push them, So I think they feel more free at home, can do what they want. They were not afraid of having bad grades, when they didn't want to study, I give them, so, maybe you should just take a break, you should study all day, probably did not help. So education, another one, and so I learned a lot to adjust myself. So this is one thing about grade. The other thing in education is the sports. In this country, so much emphasis on sports. To the point, I really think we talk too much, because my girls are doing soccer since 5 years old, right? I mean, they are in the clubs, right? So they have to practice every day 2 hours. And then they have competition on weekends. And then when they got into school, like junior high school or high school, they have school team. So they have a club team, they have a school team. And I just wonder, at that time, where do they have time to find time to study? But that's a part I cannot change anything because it's so important for the kids. My girls too. They want to be in two teams. There's some shows probably give them some, I don't know, status or some identity in school that I'm in the team. So they want to do it. So they spend a lot of time on it. So they have to stay up very late to study in order to finish all the homework. But that's their choice, right? So sports. I still don't understand why so much time. Even my girl already went through it. And I think the sports in the States is not just when you go into school, but also the whole society. Look at how much time we spend on watch basketball and football. Every state have their team. It's a big thing in the States. So family education is two things. As a Chinese, it's ingrained in my mind, and I came here, and some of the ideas change. About family with parents, with relatives, are still very firm.
So you came first. Let's see, you were like 25, right, for your master's. But you had studied English literature, right, in college in Taiwan before that. So, I guess before you were kind of like had your family life and started discovering a lot of these things about raising kids and a family in America, was there anything that was surprising or challenging when you first arrived for school?
When I arrived in Texas, my UT Austin is my first university. I think the Texas is so big. That's my first surprise. Not surprise, it's a shock, I should say. Everything is so big. Taiwan is a small island. Even in Texas, you go to have food, the cup is so big. The iced tea, I cannot even hold. I have to use two hands. Just plates, everything is so big, and there's so much space. Because in Taiwan, it's all apartments, high rise, because so many people, so limited space, right? So everything go up. It's not like this. Here you have individual house, you have your own, so a lot more space. Well, and when I applied to schools in the States, I got in actually. Columbia in New York, also Santa Barbara, California, but here also UT Austin. But I decided to come to Texas because at that time a lot of Taiwanese, when they apply to school here, they usually go to California, New York, where there are more Chinese. But not many people came to Texas. So I was just curious, what's out here. So, but I came here. I'm surprised to see this place, so much space so big. But I'm also very happy because it's different. It's different than what I know about LA or California or New York. People here are much more laid back, I think, and then they talk differently. They talk very slow. Howdy, So everything was new. So I was really excited about it because at that time I was thinking just get a master's degree and went back to teach. I didn't have the plan to do my PhD, but then first I want to learn more about linguistics, but also I like Austin, especially Austin, very much. Austin is a very liberal city. I think I learned a lot more outside the classroom than in the classroom. So.
I relate to that.
Austin, right? Yeah. Austin and Houston are probably two most liberal cities in Texas.
So you were kind of looking forward to that adventure of being on your own. Did you miss anything about home, or
I have to say, I in the first 2 years, I was so excited. I did not miss much. At that time, it's really difficult to call because it was so expensive. We all wrote letters. I wrote letters to my parents, but hardly cold, I didn't go home either. But but the first 2 years, especially at the beginning, I was very excited to learn everything and try to explore everything. Very excited. And also another big thing is that in Taiwan, when I left, Taiwan was still a little bit close in terms of it's not really democratic country, right? So it's Chiang Kai-shek left army, the Nationalist Party to Taiwan, and he was the president, and then his son was the president. It's really no election or anything. So there's a lot of things we were not told. What happened, for example, what happened between the Civil War? How did it happen? Why we won the Second World War? We beat the Japanese. What happened between us? Between him and the Chairman Mao, for example. So when I came to this country, then there's a lot of books about that. So I started reading all these details and understand there's many mistakes Chiang Kai-shek made. Because in Taiwan, you cannot talk about it, right? We don't know. China is so big. He has such a big army. How did you lose the war? How did you come to Taiwan? How did Mao won the war? So I read a lot of books. I realized how he mismanaged the country, the finance, and then lost the confidence of the people. And so the chairman, the Mao Zedong, Chairman Mao, have the support of the people. So eventually Chairman Mao won the Civil War. So that's another thing. When I came to this country, I got this chance to read a lot of things that I was not allowed. Mm-hmm. So I was very happy. So the first year, really, I did not go home. I did not miss my family. I just rode, yeah.
So going off of the censorship, how do you feel about the censorship in China?
In Taiwan, or right now?
Right now, both in Taiwan and China.
Taiwan right now is no censorship.
Yeah.
Anymore. Taiwan is totally
but
open.
But back then, and also now in China, and.
Yeah, back then, I have to say that you say if I miss Taiwan or home, I miss home, but in Taiwan, I feel like I was suffocated, especially in schools, because there are so many rules. You can only have hair this long, you have to wear uniform. I mean, it's changed all now, okay? You have to wear black umbrella, you have to wear black, and everything have rules. And you cannot criticize government. You can, whatever you wrote, I remember writing the composition, for example, talking about society or any topic, anything at the end, you have to say, our goal is going back to China to conquer, to defeat Chairman Mao. You have to say something like that. It's just ridiculous. And then we have the entrance examination to get to the college. And there is a subject that you have to memorize all the things government says and a certain answer to that. There's no way for you to express your own ideas or even ask questions. Like in the school, if I ask questions, teacher would not happy about it. So that's a problem about censorship. And what happened to Taiwan after I came to this country is Chiang Kai-shek's son. He made a decision to really focus on Taiwan, not thinking about always going back to mainland China. So he started to spend the money to build highways, airport in Taiwan. And he also, the person, started to think we need to work with so-called Taiwanese. They came much earlier than Nationalist Party people, like 3 or 4 years old, 400 years before. So he let the Taiwanese to be at the very high position, actually vice president. So that's gradually started changing the Taiwan's censorship. And then I think in 1988 or something, we have the first national election to elect our own president. So that's changed everything because we have second party. Before we only have national party, nationalist party, right? Then we have second party right now. So it's very democratic country, and you can say and criticize everything you want. So I think that's very healthy, right? And really give people the opportunity to express the idea. And then if you look at China right now, it's still like Taiwan was back 20 years ago. They keep saying that China is so big, Taiwan is so small, so you can do that easily. China is so big with so many people, we cannot just let it go for everyone. The country would be a mess. This is just they're saying the people on the top, they have the power to say that. But I think at least, in my experience, as I told you, I have family there. When you talk to the common people, they all know that the government is lying. The government, just doesn't want to give people the right to think, to express their ideas. But I think for, you look forward, I think the Communist Party probably will not let go their power for a while. I think probably at least another 50 years or something. So they are so powerful, and then right now the how do you say, the Communist Party did raise people's living standards, right? So people's life was improved. So a lot of young people right now would rather spend their energy, their time to have, to get a better job, making more money, and not involved with, politics. Okay, I don't have the right to select mayor. That's fine. President. That's fine. As long as you give me the space, I can have a good job, make my own money. So you don't have that mass try to protest and try to fight for the right. The June 4th, I think it's June 4th yesterday, was the Tiananmen Square, right? Hong Kong people celebrated. China, the young people probably forgot about the whole thing. So no one is fighting for that. So maybe in the future, China is really dependent on Taiwan and Hong Kong. I don't know. These two countries at least are still, very democratic, very free. People know, we know. I mean, and I think, people in China know, even though they shut down Google's or the Facebook, but people get news, they know what happened outside. That's why we have so many people in China, want to come to the States because they know the differences. So the censorship is there. How long it will last? Probably for a while.
When you first came to Austin, was that kind of the first time you, I guess, learned about American politics, or what was it like kind of learning about these two political spheres at once, and how did you explore that?
About American politics, I didn't learn it until very late. It's a very complicated issue, right? Especially when you came to on the country, only had one party. You did not understand this dynamic of people's rights, election, the competition. You don't know. I think I learned that much later. I would say that probably until I really settled down, had a job, start talking to colleagues, start to read newspaper, watch TV more in details. Then I learned about this. And then right now more so because, after you get married, the family, especially my husband's family, is really not involved, but really care and really pay attention to the politics, issue political changes, and the issues between these two parties, the ideology between these two parties. So I started to learn a lot. And after I actually, what's good about it, after I realized and learned about this political situation, these two parties, their views to governments, to a lot of social issue, and I can bring this in my class too, and to discuss what happened in China, what happened in Taiwan, Hong Kong, and to compare the differences, and to maybe discuss the future direction of China and Taiwan, especially these two places will be together or will be separated. So politics, it's a more complicated issue that I didn't learn that until much later. So right now I have very good ideas about national, political situation, but local politics is still very complex for me. I heard from my husband and his family talking about it. I'm still learning. Yeah.
So you went straight from Austin to Houston, and was it always your intention to teach at the university level?
Right. When you get a PhD, that's your biggest hope to find a tenure track position. So no, actually I went to Trinity first. I taught at Trinity for 7 years. I was actually I got tenure there. I started the Chinese program with Dr. Field, right? And then, but at that time, my girls, one is 1 year old, the other one 3 years old. My husband is architect. So he first found a job in San Antonio, Trinity. But his design, he actually, his family is from Colombia, so he's half American and Colombian. So he had this more Latino styles of design. He feel like he wants to go to a bigger city. His design with a lot of color, different shape, will be more acceptable, because San Antonio, after all, is a small place, people more conservative. So he decided to come to Houston first. So that's when my girl was 1 year old and 3 years old. So we separate two places, Houston and San Antonio. So we say we try, see if we can work this out. So we tried, first year the girl stayed with me and he came to San Antonio every weekend. Until one day we realized maybe this is not the good way to have a family, because I think there was a Monday in the morning when my husband was ready to come back to the Houston. We couldn't find my older daughter to say goodbye. So eventually we found out she hid herself. She didn't want to say goodbye to her daddy, So he said maybe we should try to get together. And then the second year we tried, he took care of the older one. I took care of the younger one. So each of us take one kid, two places, and then we try to go back and forth. So eventually we think this is not the way to go. So I decided to give up my tenure position at Trinity, which I really like Trinity a lot. I like the students and focus on undergraduate education so much. And then I came to the state. I came to Houston. I moved to Houston. At the beginning, I only teach 1 or 2 courses there, Vice, and then eventually become a full-time position. So that's the situation. I taught at Trinity 7 years, and then came to Rice, I think 2000, 2001, and I've been here since then.
How did you meet your husband?
UT Austin. He was in architecture and I was in linguistic. It's not the same field, but the building were very close. So once we were introduced, so we met each other often. Yeah, because if I hadn't met him, I would just go back home. You know, I didn't plan to stay here.
Why not?
In the state because all my family are there, right? And well, I had a boyfriend over there too, so but I did not go back. So that's a plan to go back, but then we broke up. So yeah, I mean it's still sometimes hard, you know, when you want alone here. Parents are there, so I try to go there every year to see my parents, my family. That's what we did when the girl was a little. Every summer, either we went to Taiwan or we went to my husband's parents, which they live in Costa Rica, so 2 places. Yeah, so to see the family.
As your girls have grown older, I guess, have you raised them with the same values you think you were raised with, or do you think they see the world differently than?
I would say that mixed, mixed. You know, for example, the family concept. I think they have very strong. Understanding, stronger than their father, I think, about Chinese. So they really identify Taiwan as their second home. So summer, you know, they want to go home. It's not like I say you have to go to see your grandparents. They want to go there. Every Sunday, they still do Skype with my parents. They can speak Chinese. So they understand how important to have that conversation every Sunday with my parents, no matter how busy they are. They would do that, which shows me they understand that, right? It's not just obligation, they have to do it, and they know they do this will make them happy, and they are old, it's what they should do. Huh? So I think they have that. But they're definitely Americans. You know, I mean, I like that because they are more independent. They have their own thinking. They are not afraid, especially even in this country. You know, for women, girls, you need to stand up for yourself. You need to express your ideas. You cannot be too shy. You know, too quiet. So sometimes, you know, the way they dress themselves, the hair color, my parents would think it's outlandish, it's too much, you know, say, you have to cover yourself, you know, so that kind of thing. So, but they have their own way. And I think it's good, you know, they take the good part from both cultures, right? I remember that there is one instance that my older daughter especially, she realized that she looks different, you know. That's the moment, you know, when they were in pre-K, which is near Rice. There's pre-K school. The pre-K school is a lot of very racial, multiracial environment. You know, teachers black, and they have Latino, they have Asians, you know, that kind of group. And then they went to Presbyterian, which is a private elementary school. So Catalina went there the first day. When she came home, she told me, say, Mommy, I don't like my skin color. I don't like my hair color. I say, well, why, you know? And then, so she see everyone is blonde color, white skin. So I went back to talk to her teacher right away, you know, said, why? She said, don't worry, we will talk about this, you know, we have to make everyone accept it. But that's the moment, I think, she realized the difference there. Actually, later on, she made a documentary about this. She's just into movie right now. So I think for our kids, sooner or later, I think they have this, you know, they have to identify themselves, you know. Like my younger one, for a long time, she did not want me to speak Chinese to her in school. She just don't want to hear anything in front of her friends, right? They have this stage. But right now, they're both in college. The older one is going to graduate soon. I think they find the comfortable zone, you know. What part is from Taiwan, from China? What part is from Latino, for example? What part is American? How do they reconcile all these differences and accept it, right? So, and they learn a lot of growing up by themselves. Because a lot of American girls, how do they grow up? I am not clear, you know, how you have to shave your hair, you have to do your hair, you have to do all these things, I don't know. They have to learn by themselves. Oh, another thing is I don't make cakes. I don't know how to use oven to make cake dessert. You know, he said, how come everybody make cookies? I don't know how to do it. So we don't have ovens in China. You never hear people have ovens in China to make cakes. So they have to do that on their own, learn everything. Just the little things, you know, so we learn from each other. And I never order pizza, you know, I never order pizza. I don't do dessert after dinner. We have fruit, right? After dinner, this Taiwanese do, after dinner we have fruit. So they accept that. I mean, gradually, right now they eat a lot of fruit, you know. I'll hear her friends say, I never see people eat so much fruit. So I think a good mix right now. My girl, the older one, is going to film. She is going to a film school for master degree. And for example, right now she's really focused on Asian American films. You know the past 2 years, crazy rich Asian people. And right now there's a the farewell is talking about Chinese girl going back to China to see her grandma, which is, you know, who is dying. But anyway, so you know, she finds her identity and then have some ideas about maybe produce films or making films to give minority more voice, you know, Asian American or women more voice. And I think it's all because the growing up in this family, right? We have different cultural and see different ways, and so she developed these ideas for her future film production, maybe.
So you said that your daughters identify as American. So how do you identify?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
I'm Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I have identity problem. I mean, why did I say that? Because I grew up, I didn't come here until 25, 24, right? I know I'm Chinese, I'm Taiwanese. Probably it's more issue you should ask me, is Chinese or Taiwanese? Anyway, I'm a Chinese. But I start to think about these identity questions, actually, is because my students, you know, at the Trinity and here, sometimes, not very often, teach Asian American courses, you know, talking about, we focus on history. But then I see my students have all this question, what I am, you know, what am I, you know, where should I identify with, you know. So I actually discuss this question with my students. But for myself, I never had this question. I American I have an American passport, right? And I will do my citizenship responsibility, but I know deep down I'm Chinese. I don't have a question about that. But I appreciate the opportunity that I can become a citizen here in this country to contribute to this country, and hope this country will contribute good to get even better. So I don't have that question.
Growing up, was like being a woman or a Chinese woman, was that as important to you or more important than, I guess, your national identity in a way?
I guess that question is not more important, not as what I'm doing. I guess for myself as a person, I do think it's good for a woman to have our own career, the thing we want to achieve and want to do. I'm not saying being a housewife is not important, but for me, I think, remember that when I came to Houston, I only taught one class at Rice, right? And at that time, a lot of my time was home with kids. I was not satisfied with that. I find it's very boring, so I want to do something. So I try at Rice, try to get this job become a full-time position. Even though it's not like Trinity's professorship, but it's lectureship, but I still want to do research to have questions be answered, right? So that's why I keep myself onto my career path. And right now, for example, at Rice, even though they call teaching professor, right? Your focus is still on teaching, but they give me more support to do some research on Chinese language. So I really enjoy that. So for me, starting at the age 25, came here to my master, PhD, and I always think I want to achieve something that's more meaningful for me. Either it's doing the research to answer some questions for Chinese education, or help to expand the Chinese education in the States, or answer some questions they have in linguistics. That's what I want to do, and I do hope that I have at least set example for my girls. You can be very satisfied and happy to have a job you like, enjoy, to contribute, and you can have a family at the same time. Yeah, so for your question, I think it's for women, how women should build our own life. You don't have to always just follow, the traditional way of what people think you should be, right? You should follow your heart, what you want to do. So.
What are some of those research questions that are most interesting or important to you, even if it's super academic?
Well, right now, for example, I'm working on how people read Chinese, read Chinese characters, read the text. We have a lot of research already done for English, right? But English is alphabets. Chinese are characters. And Chinese language is all the words composed by characters, not spelling. So I want to learn, especially my students at the beginning level, like after study Chinese for 1 year, they know some set of characters. How do they read Chinese based on the limited set of characters? Do they just read word by word, one character by character, or they know how to separate words in a sentence? Because in Chinese there is no space in between words. Do they know how to do that? How do they do that? Right? And also, we want to, so what we did is we asked them to think aloud when they read. And when they read, they have to think about what they're thinking. So we know what kind of strategy or skill they use, or what kind of strategy or skills they did not use. So once we have the data, we can use the data to design instructions, how to help them to read better, to understand how to summarize the text they read, and can we teach them some strategy and skill. So that's the work I'm working on right now. Actually, I just finished the data. Some data is when I came here, and I'm going back to look at the data again. Probably people think it's boring, but I think it's very fascinating. You know, so this is one thing. Another thing we are working on is the conversation between doctor and patient. So we have a lot of students are pre-med, but they also want to use their Chinese language in the future. So we record a lot of doctor-patient conversation, Chinese doctor and Chinese patient conversation, and use the real conversation to find the patterns there, what doctors say in this situation, what kind of questions patient may have, and use that as a teaching material and in that class. So, yeah.
So what have you learned from teaching for so long? Has the way you changed, or has the way you approach teaching changed at all?
Yeah, you have keep learning. That's so you will not you make it always interesting. You have to keep learning. Learning what? Learning the update pedagogy, for example, right? People have different way to teach the same thing, or more effective way to teach the same thing. So you have to learn from that. But you also have to learn from students. Students are changing so fast. Right now, for example, I think I got to use more technologies in the classroom, so a lot of cell phone app, a lot of, how do you say, the pedagogies, you give them more space to let them to explore. You're not the one always tell them the knowledge to teach them. So actually, talking about teaching, so for next semester, I'm going to do a different thing, a different project, which I call Chinese Cultural Project. You see, in the past, I would just teach them, right? I would show them a Chinese movie, I would teach them a Chinese song, show them the video clip about the situation in China. But I think for this generation, it's probably not very effective. I will give them, this is a project, this is your project. What do you want to learn about Chinese culture? Okay, you find your own topic, okay? And then I provide you the resource. You go to find, to answer your own question. So, do you think? Because I think it's more interesting for students, right? So each one have different topics. Maybe they watch different movies or different songs, but there's a question they want to answer. They go to find the answer by themselves. I help them to find the resource.
What do you think about, what is the American attitude towards language education or multilingualism, and does that factor into how you teach or how you research?
I think well, this
Or
is
maybe
really,
it doesn't. I don't
no,
know.
because this is really, we are teacher in the classroom. We cannot change that much, right? So when a student come to our class, we are very happy, these students, they must be interested in different culture, multiculturalism. You don't have to really educate them already. They already know that's what they come. The question, how to get more students come to our class. But this is a lot of things we personal, effort cannot help too much. For example, at Rice, there's no foreign language requirement. Not many universities do that. Trinity, every student has to take at least, 2 semesters. UT Austin is 2 semesters, right? This is from the top. If top tell you say, from the top say, oh, it's, you don't have to take foreign language. There's already a big message, right? So it's hard for us teacher there to fight for this big concept. So this thing, the students might even, to take the language. But I think, on the other hand, I think Rice has made so much effort to bring students from different countries, right? So we have students from China, Korea. They really make this place more international. So right now, for example, the way I teach, I take advantage of this. For example, the project I'm telling you that I'm doing next semester, they will do their own cultural project. Now I have 60 students. It's impossible for me to guide each student to answer their question. So I'm going to take advantage of all this Chinese student from China. Well, I'm going to hire them. Each one will take a small group. So these Chinese students, will give them more information. They are all college age, right? They know if they're interested in this actor in China, he probably or she probably have more information than I do, right? So that's the way I can try to take advantage of that. And yes, I do hope more Americans will accept multi-ethnetics and multiculturalism in this country. But we need more people, together in this effort. Yeah. We've been talking long enough.
I was wondering about, so you're on like a lot of committees that review tests, right? Like the AP tests. And I don't know if you're still doing that or if that was the past, but how do you think about testing now after having been a part of that actual process on the inside?
Yeah, testing is things sometimes cannot really, gauge you or gauge your capability. But that's a standard way. Everyone accept that. And they have their contribution too. For example, AP Chinese started in 2007. Because of this test, really helped to expand the Chinese language education in the States, right? More schools, more high schools open up offer Chinese. And right now you will see more actually immersion schools, the bilingual school, teach both Chinese and English. Okay, we have one school in Houston, is immersion school, and I would say most high school have Chinese classes. Several junior high have Chinese. So it has its contribution. But then this AP Chinese, for example, in the test, they do not require you to write characters. You just have to type. And that has certain effect too, because some high school teachers say, they don't have to write characters, why do I have to teach? They just have to type. But based on research, just writing the character really help you to recognize characters. Without this process, they take more efforts, energy to recognize the character. So you see how a test, can affect way of you teach, and then the significance of it, right? But you cannot do without it, if you don't have this standard test. What do you do? So it's very important for the committee member to make sure the tests, the items, the format can really evaluate students' skills and capability. And fortunately, here in this country, you don't just depend on tests, right? You still look at their other aspect, extracurriculums, your other achievement. So which is more balanced? Then you look at China or Taiwan or Japan or Korea, there's only one test on that day. So that's even worse, right? But in classroom, I have much more flexibility. I don't emphasize tests that much. I have many different projects. The written test is only 30% of it, right? So as a teacher, we can do a lot of different things to really let students to use what they have learned to show what they can do with the language. Right.
Do you think you'll keep teaching for a long time?
Yeah, I asked
What do you-
myself that question. For now, I think yes. I haven't thought about to get retired or anything yet. As long as I have energy, right? And then that's great about being a teacher here in the States. I don't think there's a retirement age. You can teach until you cannot walk or anything. I think. But yeah, I haven't thought about that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What else do you hope for in your future, whether just for your family or maybe for the country or for education?
I think for myself that I have still a lot of things I would like to do. Once I retired, I want to go see more different mountains to hike. If possible, maybe to pick up piano. I don't know if I still can have the fingers to enjoy more music, plant more flowers, plants. And for the country, I just hope 2002 we have different president.
Yeah.
That's my biggest hope. But I think the States, I don't know, if you look around, everyone is so immigrant, right? A lot of people, no matter even several generations live here, you came from somewhere. This is a really country of immigrants. And I do hope, for the future of the country, everyone has these ideas, and to cherish it, value it. Why against it, right? And there's also a little bit Chinese Confucius ideas. When you yourself have a lot, share a little bit. It will not hurt you that much. Be a little bit generous. This is a very rich country. A lot of space. We share. So that's the hope for the States in the future. If, most people have this idea to value that the immigrants, every one of us is, and what we bring to this country, what we learn from everyone. Right?
Do you also think about the future of Taiwan or China a lot?
Yeah. If you ask me this question, say 10 years ago before Xi Jinping, I do see there's maybe a hope. These two places will be work together. Because it seems to me they were more open up, but now they went back, right? The Xi Jinping basically went back and to be more controlled and more rigid. So I don't see, because when I say I'm Chinese, because my father is from China, and I don't even speak Taiwanese that well. I understand, but I don't speak that well. So all my family are there too. So I do hope Taiwanese and Chinese will become one family in the future, right? But we don't want to become part of Communist Party, right? We want to be a democratic country. So if China can change to a more democratic society, yes, we can work together, like East and West